like Chua, partaking of the fruit. She didn't die instantly, but it was going to take it was going to take some of her lifespan away. But I just find it, if you look at the prophets, like you said, some of them were passing out. Like, Abram was showing some things, Yitzhak was showing some things, Yaakov, Noah, all of them, they were shown things, and they were, it's to me, it's mind blowing to me. It's amazing to see those things and just be able to see that progression or that deterioration, however you want to look at it.
I agree. I mean, Abram, like you said, Abram is the only person I believe in scripture who Abiyah said was his friend. So that lets you know that it's definitely levels to how Yah deals with us. Another example I just thought about was Yahakanai when he was writing the Revelation. He was writing some of that stuff and he was looking at those visions, because a lot of that was him saying, and I said, and lo, in horror, I had a vision, and you read that and you see the seventh trumpet blow, and it's like you done witnessed, you know what I'm saying, a third of the men die in a vision in the water and the sun's under. So, it's definitely levels to what we could handle. And I mean, I can't prove it, but I do agree that Abraham would more than likely be able to handle the most of all of us, because like I said, Abiyah called him his friend.
Facts. Let me give everyone on the call one other glimpse of this. Isn't Abram the one that the Most High said that I know he's going to teach his children the right thing? Something to that effect. That's Abram, correct?
I believe so.
Okay, so peep this. The Most High, or Yahusha, however we want to look at this, he came down and sat with Abram. He walked side by side and spoke with Abram, right? Told him what he was planning on doing. When you get to Moshe, and Moshe comes up to speak to Abram, he's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Take your shoes off. I say that because he didn't do that with Abram, because he knew Abram was going to teach his children and keep Kodesh the Kodesh things. Not saying he didn't know Moshe, but that just shows you the deterioration over time, and it's not all Moshe's fault. It was generational deterioration. But just that picture right there of him dealing with Abram like that and dealing with Moshe on a different level. He kept in a sense, kept a distance from Moshe in that aspect.
True. No, you're right. It was definitely levels. And you know what, like I always say that Abiyah never gets off the throne. It's a couple times that I believe he got off the throne. When Moshe went up on Sinai, I believe Abiyah got off the throne and met him at the top of the mountain. Now, with that being said, he could have bowed the heavens like he did in Psalms 18 when Yahushua was on the tree. But I believe just because I don't have anything else to go on, I'm not the end all be all in that. But I do believe that's the time when he got off the throne. Another time, to your point about Abraham, when Abraham said that he saw the burning furnace and the fiery pot go between the pieces, and basically that was Abiyah making the covenant with Yahushua on behalf of Abraham, really, because he knew that Abraham's seed was going to mess up and he didn't want to have to kill Abraham and his seed. In that vision, he saw them go between the pieces. I believe it's possible Abiyah got off the throne then, but you do hear me say that a lot, because there's only a few times, it may be one other time, where I believe that Abiyah got off the throne. I believe a lot of that is, I have to go back and read that verse. I don't know it verbatim, but I believe a lot of that when it says that Yah, or it'll say an angel of Yah, and then it will say, and Yahuwah said, I see that as Yahushua, which he is the right arm. And we know that the Yod in Hebrew, which is the right arm, the Yod, which is the hand of the arm, is the work, right? So we know that I believe most of those occurrences when it says that is Yahushua coming to do the work, right? But like I say, that's just a belief, you know. To your point in the text, that's just my belief. I can't, you know, it's certain things scripturally that's just above me, you know. And I mean, how many times I actually got off the throne is one of those things. I can only think of 2, maybe 3. I don't know. Maybe that's a lesson in itself one day. How many times did I get off the throne? That may be something to go over. You know what I mean? But those are 2 times where I do believe he got off the throne when he was making the covenant. And it makes sense though, because and it both had to do with the covenant. He was making the covenant with Abraham. He got off the throne and made the covenant with Moshe for the nation of Israel. I think it's one other time, but I would have to go through scripture and really think about it. I don't know it right off the back of my hand like that, but not many. I believe most of those times is Yahushua coming to deal with me because he is the right hand of Yah, and the right arm, the right hand represents work. He's doing the work of Yah. He is the visible image of the invisible Elohim, and so on and so forth for so many scriptures. But that's my one opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. And Koti Mira asking what she just did, like I'm like getting this deeper, I'm feeling this deeper understanding to it. Like the Most High is the creator and the architect of everything. And in the creation of that architecture, it was always for his son to be glorified. Mm-hmm. It was always for his son, you know, to be the image of him. So even, I don't think we'll ever see the Father beyond seeing the Father through the Son. I believe that's why Yahusha said, if you knew me, if you knew my Father, you'd know me. If you've seen me, you've seen my Father. Once the glory of Yahusha comes to fruition, that's it. You've seen the Father. You've seen everything in fruition through Yahusha. I think he'll always be, we'll see the Father through him, but we'll never go beyond the curtain to see the wizard, for lack of a better way to put it. You'll never get that glimpse beyond the curtain.
At the end, everybody's going to see him, and it's going to be at the judgment. You feel me? I agree. No, I totally agree. Like,
but hasn't all judgment been given unto the Son?
It has, but not the final one. The final one, Abiyah, is going to make sure that everybody knows exactly who's sending you into the lake of fire, because it's the end.
What if in the end you get that? So, and I'm just, you know, this is me and Miras. This is the way we do things. Mm-hmm. What if so you don't necessarily have to see the Father for that to be true.
That's true.
The world can finally understand that seeing the Son is seeing the Father.
That's true.
And therefore the Son, for lack of a better way to put it, is the one who holds the judgment. And you have the understanding that judgment is of the Father.
That's possible.
Like, I mean, my thought right now is that you never get to see beyond the curtain, but you don't need to. You have that understanding that when you see the Son, you are seeing the Father. You're seeing the plan in it. I'm trying to use normal terms. You'll see the plan in its fullest, in its fruition, in its perfection. You'll see it all through the Son.
That is possible.
I'll say lie.
No, that's possible. Like I say, some of these ideas are so big. That's possible. It's it's very possible. I think of Revelations, though, when it talks about in the New Jerusalem, it says that um, the Father and the Lamb will both be present, you know? So, um, and I can't even say he getting off the throne then, because he could just be bringing the throne to earth. Like, you know, so it's when I say these things of my belief of these things, I am not the authority on this conversation. This is just a thought, you know,
Oh
like
yeah, yeah. No, I'm
it's,
following. I'm tracking.
it's all a really big thought, but I agree with you as well. He's given Yahushua really, and maybe if we do the second Enoch, we'll go through this and understand. But Yahushua really, everything was created through Yahushua, giving him the authority of his Father. So with that being said, yeah, he could judge it all. He was given the authority to create it all, you know, and it would be, like you said, the same judgment from his Father, because Yahushua is in complete, he's lockstep with his Father, you know. Everything he does is how his Father has shown him, as he would say in scripture. I do what I've seen in the Shemaim. I move how I've seen my Father move. I don't move of my own. So that's why I say what you said could be true as well. You know, it's just one of those things.
Hmm.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Yeah. So if there's no other questions or comments, we're gonna move to 14. I'm glad I remembered to start recording this before we got past 13, even though we missed a little bit, but it'll work. But moving to 14.
One last thing.
Go ahead.
Genesis. You know, everything starts in Genesis.
Mm-hmm.
1 to 3. Let us. No, I'm just speaking in general. Elohim, and we understand that to be a masculine plural, is creating. When he goes to create man, it is let us.
Mm-hmm.
Man is created. After man sins, then there's an encounter between man and the Most High.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the Most High? So here's why I'm saying this.
That's a good question.
On the seventh day, the Most High rested, ceased, Shabbat. Everything was turned over to the Son at that point.
That's a good, that could very well be true. Which, you know, a lot of people ask that question, if on the seventh day the Most High truly rested, wouldn't everything fall into chaos? And that could be because he rested, and that could be him turning over the reins to the Son. I agree. You know, that's just another one of those things.
It's like, excuse me, it's like you having a son, and y'all have one house. You have a house, and you work, and you create, and you provide for your son and for that house, and then you retire, or you're falling back, but you give the house and the authority to your son. No one's coming to you, or they shouldn't. Yo, Dre, can I do this in your house? My son has the authority of the house. Why are you coming to me for? Ask him.
Mm-hmm.
That concept.
Mm-hmm.
But Torah.
It's just one of them things, Doc. Like that's a good, I believe that's a good conversation that could be had. How often has Abba Yah himself dealt with man? That's it's a great conversation. It's on you, Lauren.
Yeah, he ain't gonna throw that rock and run off like that. Get back here. So, and he made me, the first thing that came to my mind was Matthew chapter 20, verse 1. For the kingdom of heaven is like unto a man that is an householder, which went out early in the morning to hire laborers into the vineyard. And then I thought about the other, I believe it's another one. It's another parable. And he speaks of, you know, having the vineyard, looking at the trees, looking at how they're not bearing fruit. And he went to his father like, hey, the father comes, sorry. And he says, well, grab it all up, like get rid of it. He's like, no, wait, like it's going to be some next season. So I think about the two part, the son and the father. And I think about here when he keeps saying the son and the father, the son and the father. The parables that Yahushua was telling him, I had something to do with the son and the father. I thought about that when Kepha said that. I said, for the kingdom of heaven, the Shemayim is like unto a man that is the householder, which went out early in the morning to hire laborers into his vineyard. And I think about the father being there and the son is being just like the father. He does the work. And that's amazing that he put that together. I was thinking about that. I was sitting there like, every time, he would bring out those parables, it really made you think of Yahushua and Abiyah and how we supposed to be submitted to Yah, just like he is submitted, all in, not second guessing, always taking up the mantle. But tell out for that, Kevin.
Hallelujah.
All praises. It wasn't me. That's the Ruach. That's not something I could have thought of on my own.
Hallelujah. Like I say, this is why we do this, man. This is supposed to provoke these type of thoughts. These are good questions that you don't hear them a lot, but you do hear them. These are things people ponder. How often has Abiyah dealt with man? How often? Like I say, and even me, I believe he has, but I can only think of twice and maybe one other time that I believe he did that. Going back to Moshe time, when Moshe asked him in Exodus, he said, come with us. These people wicked. I want you to go before us to keep everybody in line. Yahushua tell him, not Yahushua, Abiyah tells him, I send my angel before me to lead y'all. The fiery pillar, the cloud by day, I believe. That's Yahushua, right? But Abiyah is telling Moshe that. You know what I mean? So, like I say, the two times of the covenant, and this is just a belief of mine, the two times when Yah was establishing his covenant, he did it directly with man. He did it with Abraham. He established the covenant with Yahushua in front of Abraham. And he did it on Sinai with Moshe. Also in Jubilees, the angels were like, we were with Moshe, which is Yahushua, right? When Yah came up, remember it said he's in Exodus, I think 34, he saw the tail end of Yah, and he said that the angel had to hold him back with his hand because if he saw Yah's complete glory, he would have died. You can see Yahushua, you can't see Abiyah. So those are just things to where I try to, and like I say, I'm still not the authority on the conversation, but those are just the kind of things to where I try to make it make sense. Hallelujah. But now moving along, he has written this letter for the fallen angels who've asked him to pray. And now it says he fell asleep and he had this vision and he saw plagues and he spake to the children of heaven and reprimanded them. And then he went back and told them this vision. So as we go forward, he's about to express these conversations with Yah, if we make it there, right? So I'll pick up 14. Enoch 14, we have, this is the book of the words. This is the book of the words of righteousness and the chastisement of the eternal watchers in accordance with how the Holy and Great One had commanded in this vision. I saw in my sleep what I now speak with my tongue of flesh and the breath of the mouth, which the Great One has given to man, so that he, man, may speak with it, and so that he may have understanding with his heart, as he, the Great One, has created and given it to man. So Enoch is now saying, I'm going to tell you all what I saw when these things transpired, right? Accordingly, he has created me and given me the word of understanding, so that I may reprimand the watchers, the children of heaven. I wrote down your prayers so it appeared in vision, for your prayers will not be heard throughout all the days of eternity. And judgment is passed upon you from now on. You will not be able to ascend into heaven unto all eternity. Which is interesting, right? Because I can't staple it down, but we get this picture to where the belief is that as soon as the devil fell from heaven, they were locked out. But Enoch is trying to say that these watchers, at least these ones, before they had this interaction on the planet with the women, they still had access. And now he's telling them now that access is gone. I guess that speaks to Kifa and Mir's point a little earlier. From now on, you will not be able to ascend into heaven unto all eternity, but you shall remain inside the earth, imprisoned, all the days of eternity. Before that, you will have seen the destruction of your beloved sons, and you will not have their treasures, which will fall before your eyes by the sword. So now he's telling them, you're going to be imprisoned in the earth. You're going to be imprisoned in the earth, but you're going to see your sons die. If everything was flooded on the planet, the only way the fallen angels could see them die is they would have had to have watched from the firmament. They would have had to have watched the planet flooded and destroyed, and they watched the giants die, right? And your petitions on their behalf will not be heard. Neither will those on your own behalf, which you offer weeping and praying. And you will not speak even a word contained in the book which I wrote. So this is, remember, this is Enoch telling, he's going back and telling the watchers about this vision he's had after they've asked him to pray for them. And behold, and this is the vision. And this is the vision. And behold, I saw the clouds, and they were calling me in a vision. And the fogs were calling me, and the course of the stars and the lightnings were rushing me and causing me to desire. And in the vision, the winds were causing me to fly and rushing me high up into heaven. Remember, this is a vision, right? As far as Enoch's translation and all of that, this ain't that. He's just having a vision, right? And I kept coming into heaven until I approached a wall, which was built of white marble and surrounded by tongues of fire. It's funny because when we get to Acts, when it talks about the Ruach, it says that they were all given cloven tongues of fire, if I'm not mistaken. But moving on. And it began to frighten me. And I came into the tongues of fire and drew near to a great house, which was built of white marble. And the inner wall were like mosaics of white marble, the floor of crystal, the ceiling like the path of the stars, and lightnings between which stood fiery cherubim, a cherubim, and their heaven of water, which is the waters above the firmament, as Abiyah separated. And flaming fire surrounded the walls, and its gates were burning with fire. And I entered into the house, which was hot like fire and cold like ice. Interesting. Oh, this is long. And there was nothing inside it. So fear covered me and trembling seized me. And as I shook and trembled, I fell up on my face and saw a vision. So we'll stop right there about this first part where he's just talking about going up there and seeing this house. If there's any questions or comments about the first half of 14 before we move along, because this is pretty long. I don't want anybody to forget a thought. But Enoch is now back at the watchers explaining this vision he had after they asked him to pray. He's been called to heaven. He see this great house. He said the winds were causing me to fly and rushing me up into heaven, which we know winds is ruachs. These could have been angels who picked him up and flew him there. In Psalms, just to give a precept to that, Psalms, Shalom, shalom, Pakai Yahu. Good to see you, Aki. In Psalm 68.
Shalom.
Shalom, shalom. Psalm 68. Or is it? No. Psalms 18. I'm sorry. In Psalms 18, it talks about. It's talking about Abiyah. And this really goes along with the crucifixion. That's a whole, it's a pretty long description. Just take my word for it, please. And it says, and he rode up on a cherubim and did fly. Yeah, he did fly up on the wings of the wind, but it says he rode up on a cherubim. So I just bring that up to show that when Enoch here is saying the winds were causing me to fly, he could be riding up on a cherubim as well. And I kept coming into heaven until I approached, like he said, this white marble. There was tongues of fire. He had all these walls. He said that the ceiling was like the path of the stars, which I think is incredible. And the likeness between which stood fiery cherubim. We know Abba Yah resides, or the Ark of the Covenant, just like the throne room of Yah, it resides. It's surrounded by the cherubims, so to speak. So it's like he's coming into the throne room in a vision, and they're heaven of water, and flaming fire surround the walls, which reminds me of Revelation when Yah said there'll be no need for walls, because in that day, there'll be fiery walls that surround this city that's going to come from the Shemayim. Just giving y'all some thought process of how when I read these things, I'm trying to tie them back to, is these, have I ever seen these descriptions before in scripture? And its gates were burning like fire, and I entered into the house, which was hot like fire and cold like ice. That's a special house. But yeah, just the description of what he's given us so far. I see no hands up, so we'll keep it moving.
Yeah, it's not much longer, Aki. You might want to finish it out, then open it up.
Okay. Oh, my fault.
I had something. It won't be quick. I mean, I'll make it quick. I'll make it quick. Sorry.
No, you were right the first time. No, I'm just
Well, Ty is here now, so you know I gotta go for 3 hours. Just kidding, Ty. So in verse 6, we see where it's talking about, Yah said that the fallen ones will have no pleasure in their children, and they will actually watch them die by the sword. So we're going to see this pattern again in Torah, where it's like one of the punishments that Yah hand out is for us to watch our children die. And as a parent, I mean, I don't have kids, but I think it is so much harder to watch your child suffer, which is why a lot of times they will use the children to break the parent, because if it's a sibling, whether it's mother, father, auntie, cousins, whatever, we'll think, okay, mom, you've lived a good life. I'll catch you on the other side. But when that's your flesh and your blood, you're more likely to cave. So the angels, they were told, you're going to watch your children die. Then we see this in Deuteronomy 28, verse 32, where Israel was told, your children will be taken from you. In Hosea 13:16, we see again the same motif. Your children will be dashed to pieces in front of your eyes. And then in Isaiah 13:16, this is talking about Babylon, future prophecy, where they too will watch their children thrust through with a sword in front of their eyes. So it is like one of the most severe punishment, in addition to your punishment, is to watch your child die. And so I just thought that was interesting that it started with the watchers and then it just trickled down all the way to the end when we look at Isaiah 13:16, which is something that is prophesied to happen later. That's it.
Hallelujah. And you know what? I think what sticks out to me right here along that point that you made is, it's saying that these watchers are the fallen angels who have children. And it's like a punishment. You're going to watch your children die. The watchers, the angels, were created immortal. I think it speaks to the fact that they would even care. And it just goes to show you that the gift that Yah gave us to have children is something that even these watchers feel the pain of that, of having to watch their children die, per what Enoch is saying here. I think that was a good point. And I do believe, you always hear that, like, I remember growing up, especially growing up in the hood where it's a lot of violence and all that, you would always hear people say that the worst pain for a parent is to have to bury one of their children. Actually, no.
Did we ever think about why that's the case? Why? So Abba Yah says it's a blessing for us to be fruitful and multiply.
True.
Right? He says it's a blessing, but this is the opposite. Why? So why can you think that he's doing this? If there is, like, what is the symbolism behind it? Like, why is he doing it like that?
Just the taking of that blessing, I would suppose.
I think also because the child is an extension of yourself. It's your seed. It's the one that's going to carry on your name, your legacy, whatever. But even
I can't hear you, Okote.
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
I hear you now.
Okay. I was saying, I think because that's your seed, that's an extension of you. So it's like watching yourself die. And so it's like double punishment. You know, you're going to die, but then you watch your child die before you. It's like dying twice, if that makes sense.
What if their children don't die? What is the effects if their children don't die? What effect would it have?
You talking about the watchers here?
Yeah.
It would be grave effects, because we're talking about the giants. We're talking about the embodiment of wickedness in the world at the time.
How would that affect Abiyah, though?
I mean, nothing truly affects Abiyah. That's lie. I don't have an answer for that.
So it was a loaded question. All right, I was just wondering.
Yeah.
Just if think about it like this. You know, a lot of times when we're looking at things, we look at things from our own perspective, but we don't look at things from Yah's perspective, which is the thing that we're learning how to do. If they're alive, guess who's dying? His people, his seed, as they continue to grow. So he wants them to see their offspring die, because the same pride, you should see. Too late, man. Early bird catch the worm, Aki. You see, the thing is that he's watching, Abiyah has been watching his children die to sin. Oh, my bad. I didn't know the rules. I didn't have a beginning screen. I apologize. I'll do better next time. But anyway, sir, thank you. So the thing is that see, Abiyah watches his children die constantly. And it's not even just watching his children. His children have work. His children are Kodesh. All those that watch that lives accordingly. Especially, you know, I've been listening to Psalms a lot, and it's always just, there's a lot of David just saying, man, my enemies, Father, protect me from my enemies. My enemies plot on me. My enemies do this to me. My enemies doing that. My enemies, you know. Imagine Abiyah's children all suffering because they're righteous, they're holy, they're time, you know, complete, whole vessels of ministry, vessels of good use, but they're dying. So Abiyah has to witness worthless people or worthless seeds that he didn't even want to exist. It was his decision for life to exist on the Eretz in the first place.
True.
Now imagine worthless entities. This thing is just coming around and just messing his sandcastle up, or his, you know what I'm saying, and just destroying everything that he deemed valuable, and he's the Most High. You know, something. It's like he's destroying. It's like you're trying to destroy a royal plate, a royal. It's not just a royal dinner or royal, or just a regular dinner or a regular party. You come in here and you messing up royal, well put, well thought out spread. And you just come in here and just pollute the whole thing. Bandits knocking everything over, eating, don't even wash it. Like, it's no respect. So now you seeing, now he's like, you know what? You get to witness all the effort that I put into my people, my whole plan, my whole everything that I put in here to make it pristine and perfect. And you all destroy it all. So the same way I have to watch my children, my perfection, my love, my everything die, it's going to be a sign for you to watch your offspring die that you brought forth. You know, that's what comes to mind.
You know, to your point, Aki, you made me think about something as well. That would have been the point of the Watchers having seed. Yah, his precious man, we're going to create our own seed and let it, and we're going to set it up to where it rules over Yah's seed. So I definitely can see the point you're making. Nicole T. Lauren, then it was Yahakana who took her hand down, and then you, Akifa.
Oh, shalom. Okay, I enjoyed that breakdown. You know me, I was trying to go to the flaming tongue.
Okay.
I was trying to go there.
Was that
because I definitely
Isaiah? That's that Isaiah you threw in here?
Yeah. Go up to Isaiah 6, verse 2. I'm gonna take it up just a little bit. When he had a vision similar. Mm-hmm. And it's when I first read the book of Enoch and I saw that, I was like, that's weird. Because I remember, you know, of the same thing you were speaking of with the prophets, and they had the tongue. And I had matched it with this a long time ago, but I was just looking at this because it said that, you know, the seraphims, each one had 6 wings. With twin, he covered his face, and with twin, he covered his feet, and with twin, he did fly. And one cried unto another and said, Holy, holy, holy is Yahuwah of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. And the post of the door moved at the voice of him that cried, and the house was filled with smoke. Then said, woe is me, for I am undone, because I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of people of unclean lips. For my eyes have seen the King, the Yahuwah of hosts. Then flew one of the seraphims unto me, having a live coal in his hand, which he had taken the tongue from the altar. And he laid it upon my mouth and said, Lo, this have touched thy lips, and thy iniquity is taken away, and thy sin is purged. And I heard the voice of Yahuwah saying, Whom shall I send? Who will go for us? Then said, Here am I, send me. And he said, Go and tell these people. I just wanted to match that with something, because then you see in Revelation, I think it's 11 verse 6, when they said these have the power to shut up heaven, that it rain not in the days of their prophecy, and have power over waters to turn them into blood, and to smite the earth with plagues as often as they will. And I always thought about that being with your tongue. And that's why Yahushua was telling them, when you do leave that house, it is worse for that house than Sodom and Gomorrah. Or when he says, the kingdom has came to you, and you turned it down. And he's saying that by being a messenger, which is the messenger which everyone takes up that role when they said they are part of Israel, because you become as a witness, and you also become a rod. So then we see, you know, like 1 Samuel. And 1 Samuel, when he came and gave Samuel a vision that night with his father. And after that vision, you know, he mentions how his words, none of his words failed. All his words hit the dots. And it had something to do with the obedience of him obeying the father. But not only that, when he was around people that were disobedient, the flames of fire came off his tongue was mainly because of the wickedness. And it was mainly a rod. And that's what I thought about when I saw that in Enoch. That's all.
Hallelujah. I didn't even think of that Isaiah verse, but you are right. That could be what those tongues of fire are, like coals. But we see that when the angel gave that coal to Isaiah, it gave him the power to go and speak again, like tongues, exactly. What I like about that Isaiah verse is he said, I am an unclean man. You know, Isaiah is one of our more celebrated prophets, but he was still humble enough to know that I'm an unclean man surrounded by an unclean people. It's on you, Yahakana.
It's actually okay. I took my hand down just because Ty made the point that I was making, which was the thing about why he would want to have them watch their sons die. he had to, in the most horrible way, his perfect son, he had to watch his perfect son die for their, I mean, basically all the transgressions that those fallen watchers did resulted in him having to watch his son die in the worst way to reconcile what they had done. So I thought it was a perfect recompense.
True. And you know what? When you say that, I believe you're talking about Yahushua, but not only that, by this time in scripture, if you timeline it up, Abiyah has also watched Adam die. I know, like in this time frame, Adam died. So, and we know Yahushua is the second of the Adam. So I see that on two fronts.
Absolutely. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Akifa in the Koti mirror.
So yeah, I agree with what Yohanna said and Akbaka Yahoo brought out. There's another layer to it too. That's definitely an angle. There's another angle. So they're rebelling, right? Lucifer rebelled, or the adversary rebelled, and we're seeing these Nephil, fallen ones, rebel as well. So why are they rebelling? And most of us know the story about how, I forget where it's at, but the Most High told them that they needed to, basically they treated them like they were lower than men, or set their priority lower than men, right? So, and I brought this out in Shabbat. It's Yeshayahu Isaiah 14:14, right? This is the motive, right? So this is Isaiah speaking or paraphrasing what Lucifer said. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. And in my Shabbat lesson, I was showing how this is a fallacy, because he cannot be like the Most High. So what's the Most High like? What's the Most High have the ability to do? Create man in his image, right? So you see with these fallen Malachim, they are trying to create in their image, right? And that image, what the Most High is doing by punishing them till eternity and making them watch their offspring die, is he's cutting off that whole plan completely. Because if not, you would have two seeds in the earth, which in essence, we still had two seeds in the earth, but not in this aspect. So that's the other angle to it, is and they're trying to be like the Most High. They don't have the ability to create, so they're trying to create.
Hallelujah. I never thought about that like that. That's a fact. And I agree, he can't be like the Most High. And I just another layer to this Isaiah 14:14. I've always thought here that part of what he's saying also is they're going to worship me and not you, right? Part of the Most High's thing is man is to give him all honor, glory, and praise his name and all of that. And Lucifer is like, nah, they're going to give me all honor, glory, and praise. They're going to praise my name. They're going to praise my doctrine. They're going to praise what I say is righteousness.
Right. And, I don't want to, and esoteric thought and Jewish mysticism, the thought is always that Lucifer, what he did wasn't bad. He gave them a choice. And what Yah is doing is, man always had a choice. The Most High is preventing the Malachim from influencing that choice, if that makes sense.
Right. No, I agree. because they
Right.
know better though than man. You can't.
Right.
You've been in
And
heaven with me, man. You can't be. You
right.
can't, if anybody gonna pass heavenly things down to man, it's gonna be me, not you.
Right. And then also in the Shabbat lesson, I was trying to show in the beginning of it how he made Chua believe that she would be like the Most High, knowing good and evil by partaking of this fruit.
Mm-hmm.
But what he was actually doing in a roundabout way is by her believing him and doing what he said to do, she would have been placing him in place of the Most High. See, that's not a choice. That's influence. But
no, that's true. That's
fall
they're gonna worship me.
Right.
You gave her commandments, but she followed mine. I agree. The Koti mirrored in Pakad Yahoo.
I had lowered my hand because Yehochanan said what I was going to say. And when Pakad Yahoo had asked the question, how does this affect the watchers seeing their son die? And what I was going to say is that this just kind of opened the door, or this was the caveat for what was to come with Yah having to witness his own son dying. And so it started with the watchers and it trickled down all the way to Yeshua. And then, of course, today, in our day, we see our sons and daughters being killed in front of us all the time. But not only did Yah have to watch his son murdered, but the people who did the murdering gave him the middle finger on top of it. You know, they knew what the punishment was for shedding innocent blood. Like their blood was to be taken. And they were like, not only do we not care about murdering your son, so what? You can kill us. And to show you that we don't care, you can also kill our kids. Like they went above, you know, so the fact that we only got a 400-year prison sentence is kind of lenient because
not really though.
They didn't show the remorse they should have shown. They were so crazy when they said, let his blood be upon us and upon our children. Like they knew he was innocent and they made that statement. And not only did if they had said, let the blood be on us, then you could be like, okay, maybe they felt some type of way. But when they're like, let it be on our children, that's when they're like, we really don't care nothing about what you have going on. You know what I'm saying? So we are so lucky and should be grateful that all we got was 400 years hard labor. You know what I mean? Because we should not be here today. So Toda to Yah for extending grace, even though our ancestors were tripping.
Like he said, the Ruach, and with the calls I'm doing with my family, we coming on to John chapter 3, where it says the Ruach is like the wind. It goes and comes where it pleases, basically, and no man can tell where it goes. And that's that grace. Yahuwah said is the gift that I'll wake up some of y'all who may not even deserve it. Like you don't even know the truth. So you definitely ain't looking for me, but I'm going to wake you up into the truth with the Ruach. You're right, Todah, for that grace. And two things you just said. The last 400 years may have been the hardest labor, but realistically, he's been punishing us for close to 2,000 years. Jerusalem burnt down in 70 AD, and Israel really been on the run ever since. Now, it's been pockets where people may have lived a little bit more comfortably in different parts in the last 2,000 years, but just, on its surface, our people have been on the go without a homeland ever since that. So it's really been 2,000, but the last 400, it may have been the hardest, maybe 3,000. You're right, like it's been rough. And lastly, you just made me think, and I never thought of this. You are right. We said, let his blood, our ancestors said, let his blood be on us and our children. And we forced him to watch his son have to die, which he knew was going to happen. But we still understand that he wasn't feeling that by the earth shaking, the 3 hours of the eclipse. Those was all signs that I was saying, I knew this was coming, but y'all was wilding though. You feel me? No, you're right, Akoti. The last 400 may have been the roughest. But with that being said, part of that punishment, like you said today, is since y'all said you want the blood on you and your kids too, now I'm watching you watch yours down the street. There ain't nothing you could do about it. Just like it really wasn't nothing I could do about it because I gave Abraham my word and my word won't go out void. So although I knew it was coming, I still was hot behind it. And I wasn't going to go against my word. So it wasn't nothing I could do about it. It had to happen because I said that's what I was going to do. But now I put you in the same place. Ain't nothing you could do about it. You got to watch yours. It's on you, Pakai Yahoo.
So 2 things. One, can you click on that word Lucifer in that 14?
What verse is that right here?
Click on that word for Lucifer. Let's get just the regular Strongs. Strong's, you said Hallel, the morning star. And go to the ancient Hebrew again. I remember me and you talked about this before, that the actual name Lucifer is in reference to the king of Babylon. We give praise, shine. Page 19, so I guess yours don't. I guess your Strongs don't say it. But yeah, that Lucifer in this, if you actually read all of 14, it actually, one of the names for Hasatan is not Lucifer. It's two times that it comes up, and he names all his names. I think one is Revelation, twice is in Revelations, in the beginning and near the end. But if you look up, Hallel, if you look at it, if you look it up, that name for Lucifer is in reference to the king of Babylon. That's just the first thing. The other thing, what you're saying, what both you and Mir were saying is on point, because if we're in the image of him, it's not a thing that he got to let it slide. You know what I'm saying? It's a thing on the sense that you are my seed. You're going to have to go through what I got to go through. You see what I'm saying? You're my seed. These things that are happening, you have to experience and feel the way that I experience and feel. You see, we have to be in, you see, he says, what's that 1 Corinthians say that, that the head of woman is man, and the head of man is Mashiach, and Abiyah is the head of Mashiach. You see, we have to be in Mashiach to get to the Father. Mm-hmm. But even the consequences that go down from, and it's not even necessarily a consequence of Yah, because it's not Yah's doing, it's just corruption. But what now, since we have to be in Mashiach to get to the Father, what Mashiach had to go through, we have to go through. You see? And even the people that start to, that's what he says, all you doors, you everlasting gates, talking to what's that? That's in Psalms, and talking in reference to us. I think it's like 20 something. Yeah. Everlasting doors, all ye gates. Well, Mashiach calls himself the gate. You see what I'm saying? So if we're in him, well, what about the other nations and everybody that's coming that are scattered? But they have to come through us. You know what I'm saying? They have to come through us because we're the gates. So that means that they're going to have to experience what we have. So we're being shunned, spit on, the whole nine. They're going to have to go through the same thing for being, I think I was talking to DJ about this earlier, but what Granny said, we guilty by association. We guilty, those who affiliate are guilty by association with us as well. So and that's the other thing, the talking, reading through Psalms as well, talk about us being drunken with blood. When I think about this, and you was talking about both of y'all was mentioning, like, from Abiyah's perspective, like, man, they doing this thing. What kind of heart does a person got to have for you to be like, man, whatever, let this man die, but We're gonna, man, put the blood on us and on our kids.
Mhm.
That's what he was talking about. We said, man, these people are just drunken with blood. Like, you completely forgot about the purpose for Israel. You want somebody to die so bad. You forgot about your place and your purpose. That you want somebody to die that bad. Drunken with blood.
True. Mystery Babylon.
Mystery, there you go.
Or blood.
Yeah, hallelujah. That's all.
No, hallelujah. And you know what you just said, talked about the gates. I agree. And it's funny that when you get to the Shemaim, back in the Enoch, he said that, and it was gates burning with fire. And that kind of speaks to the point you made, like Yahushua is the gate. And now we are playing a role of the gate, something similar to the gate. And we have to be tried in fire. I've heard Kifa talk about how fire destroyed things, but fire also perfects things. You know, fire at different temperatures on metals and especially gold, it cleanses it. Hallelujah. We may slightly go over because I really feel like we need to get through 15 since we right here and this all goes together. Great points by everybody. Hallelujah. I'm trying to read this down. Oh, where my mic go? Oh, there we go. Hallelujah. And behold, there was an opening before me, a second house, which is greater than the former. And everything was built with tongues of fire. There go that tongues of fire again, a Koti Lauren. And in every respect, it excelled the other in glory and great honor. So he done went to a big house. And now you see a second house. As he goes through the gate and the door of the first house, it takes him to another house that's greater than the former. In every aspect, it excelled in the other in glory and great honor, to the extent that it is impossible for me to recount to you concerning its glory and greatness. As for its floors, it was of fire, and above it was lightning in the path of stars. And as for the ceiling, it was flaming fire. And I observed, and as for its floor, it was fire, and above it was lightning and the path of stars. So now he's walking on the stars. In the first house, it was like, I guess that's what it's saying because it's going to talk about the roof, but the first house, the roof was the path of stars. In this house, he said it was fire, and it was above the fire was lightning in the path of stars. And as for the ceiling, it was flaming fire. Okay. And I observed and saw inside it a lofty throne. Its appearance was like crystal, and its wheels like the shining sun. Kind of remind me of the wheel within the wheel, DJ. And I heard the voice of the herald, and from beneath the throne were issuing streams of flaming fire. It was difficult to look at it, and the great glory was sitting upon it. As for his gown, which was shining more brightly than the sun, it was whiter than any snow. You know, a lot of times people see this and we, you know, you get the wrong impression. You know, I know some of y'all stay in places where you never even see snow, but just speaking for the north, right? And when the snow is that good, thick snow, like a fresh snow, and it's that thick, super white snow, if the sun comes out and is blaring, you can't go outside and look directly at snow. It's like looking at this, it's like it reflects the sun. It's really bright. Just to give you an observation of what he's saying there, right? It was whiter than any snow. None of the angels was able to come in and see the face of the excellent and glorious one. So now I assume he would be talking about Abiyah here. He can't look at it. The angels can't look at it. He's looking at Abiyah on the throne in a vision, once again. And no one of the flesh can see him. The flaming fire was round about him, and no one of the flesh can see him. Remind you when Yahushua was like, no man has ascended except for me, who can ascend and stand in front of Abiyah. And that's one of the catches. Yahushua, and this is part of his greatness, because we're going to see this when we get into the 40s of this, and he has a vision of Yahushua in the heaven. He is the only person, he's the only thing created that can stand in front of Abiyah looking as flesh and blood as we do. Nobody else can. That's why it says that we have to be changed like him, likened to him upon his coming. Because to stand in front of the throne of Yah, you have to be put into what I call heavenly garments, right? We couldn't stand in front of Yah in the fleshly tabernacles that we are in now, right? So the flaming fire was round about him, and a great fire stood before him. No one could come near unto him from among those that surrounded the tens of millions that stood before him. Whoa. He needed no counsel, but the most holy ones who are near to him neither go far away at night nor move away from him. And remember, we went through Gabriel's name in here last week. Gabriel's name was the one in the presence of Yah, something like that. Until then, I was prostrate on my face, covered in trembling. See, there go one of them visions, Kiefer. Enoch up there shook. He didn't saw Yah. You know, we read these now, but to really, like, it's like having a dream. Can you imagine having this dream and you in the heavens and you see the throne? Like, even if you knew it was Yah, like just knowing this is what created me, like that is a scary thought. Until then, I was prostrate on my face, covered in trembling. And Yahuwah called me with his own mouth and said to me, come near to me, Enoch, and to my holy word, Yahushua. And he lifted me up and brought me near to the gate, but I continued to look down with my face. So he's scared. He don't even want to look up. Let me see here. I'm going to keep reading. I'm going to read 15 too real quick, because this is what he's telling Enoch about the angels praying. And I feel like this go together. We need to get through this. But he's scared. He don't even want to look up. He's in front of the throne of Yah now. 15. But he raised me up and said to me with his voice, Hanak, I heard, do not fear. I then heard, do not fear. Hanak, righteous man, scribe of righteousness, come near to me and hear my voice. So he telling them, like most of the time we hear in scripture when they fall out, pass out, whatever. Nah, you've been chosen. Don't be scared. But you know that. I think that speaks to the humor of Yah, because in the same sense, he's saying, fear me. But then when we get there, he like, don't be scared, man. You good. But you told me fear you. No, I'm doing what you told me to do. Like, that speaks to how Yah will be, I don't want to say dumbs itself down, but he deals with man in a way that man can understand, literally. You know what I mean? He's kind of like joking at him. What you scared of? But you tell me in your word to fear you, but what you scared of? You here now. Nah, you good. Get up, right? And tell the watchers of the Shemaim on whose behalf you have been sent to intercede, which is interesting. Yahushua intercedes for us. Enoch is going to intercede for angels. Hallelujah. And that speaks to, yeah, we are to properly understand what's around us and what's going on. But as we grow with Yah, they don't have any dominion over us. We walk over them. But we have to be right with Yah to walk with that authority. If you don't know you're right with Yah, don't be out here acting like you walk with that authority. Continue to grow in the word first. It is meet for you that you intercede on behalf of man. So now he's telling Enoch, now you pray for men, not them, and not man on your behalf. Oh no, I'm sorry. He's telling Enoch the angels should be praying for men and not man on their behalf. For what reason have you abandoned the high and holy and eternal heaven, and slept with women, and defiled yourselves with the daughters of the people, taking wives, acting like the children of earth, and begetting giant sons? Surely you used to be Kodesh, spiritual, or Ruachwa, as the ox be saying, the living ones, possessing eternal life. But now you have defiled yourselves with women and with the blood of the flesh, begotten children. You have lusted with the blood of the people, like them, producing blood and flesh, which die and perish. On that account, I have given you wives in order that seeds might be sown upon them and children born by them, so that the deeds that are done upon the earth will not be withheld from you. And that go to show you how Abiyah moved, just like Pharaoh. Basically, I done hardened your heart. I knew you was tweaking. I knew what I was going to do. And I still let you do it just so when I judge you, You can't act like you don't know why. You know exactly why. I let you fulfill the lust of your heart. And there's scriptures that speak of, like you would talk about with Psalms, I believe King David would say, you know, y'all don't leave me to the lust of my heart, because the heart is wicked. I left you to the lust of your heart, you angels, just so when I judge you, you would understand. Indeed, you were spiritual, ruachal, having eternal life and immortal in all the generations of the world. Like I say, the angels were created immortal, just like Adam in the garden. He was created immortal. Sin made him fall from immortality. Sin made the angels fall from immortality. That is why formerly I did not make wives for you, for the dwelling of the spiritual beings of heaven is heaven. You didn't need wives. You live forever. You didn't need children. Man needs children because man dies. He needs children to pass down his lineage. You don't need your lineage passed down because you can't die until now. But now the giants who are born from the union of the spirits of the Ruach, from the union of the Ruach and the flesh, shall be called evil spirits upon the earth, because their dwelling shall be upon the earth and inside the earth. Evil spirits have come out of their bodies, because from the day that they were created, from the holy ones, they became the watchers. Their first origin is the spiritual foundation. They will become evil upon the earth and shall be called evil spirits. And this is where we get the demons from. They are the spirits of the giants after they died in the floods. And it was a war with giants too before the flood. Some of them died by they killed each other. But these are the demons that we deal with today on the earth, right? The dwelling of the spiritual beings of heaven is heaven, but the dwelling of the spirits of the earth, which are born upon the earth, is in the earth. The spirits of the giants oppress each other. They will corrupt, fall, be excited, and fall upon the earth and cause sorrow. They eat no food, nor become thirsty, nor find obstacles. And these spirits shall rise up against the children of the people and against the women, because they have proceeded forth from them. And that's how I be saying, now your spirits, they can't come to heaven or go to hell when they die. They have to walk the earth. And that's funny because, once again, we are tormented by demons, right? Or the wicked is. And we pray that Abiyah protects us from the demons. But the demons are being tormented by being forced not to be able to rest. You got to walk the earth, if that make any sense. Any questions or comments on any of this up until this point? We're going to stop there. It's on you, Akifa.
Yeah, I'll try to make this real quick, but it's interesting. Back where you began with the vision of the set apart place inside the set apart place, and that's exactly what he's speaking about. Is he's inside the Holy of Holies, right? But this fire and the kabod and everything, it's the wording of it is interesting to me. So I'm going to use gold as an example, right? Because he says a lot of things that are physical, like it was hot and it was cold. I couldn't look upon it, this, that, and the other thing. So we know that gold, right? When you think of something being tried by fire, most people think of gold, right? You burn gold, you take off the dross, and you get pure gold, right? So inside this set apart place, you have something that has been created by the purifying, as you pointed out, aspect of fire, making it extremely pure. Now imagine this gold on each side, gold beneath you, right? Then you have something radiant inside of that set apart place, bouncing off of that purified gold, right? So we know gold is metal. Metal would give you, being in the presence of that much metal would give you a feeling of being cold. But the radiance of what you're seeing would give you a feeling of being hot. So that imagery that he's painting there is really, really interesting. And then the last portion, when he's speaking about the fallen Malachim, if you could scroll back down to where we're at the end in 15. We'll go back up a little bit. So, right. So in 4, or 3 and 4. For what reason have you abandoned the Kadesh, holy, eternal heaven, and slept with women and defiled yourselves with the daughters of people, taking wives, acting like children of the earth, and begetting sons? Surely you used to be, right? So this wording here, I like this. I envision this saying, you are no longer Kodesh. You are no longer spiritual. You're no longer the living ones. You're the dead ones. You no longer possess eternal life, but you have now defiled yourself with women and the blood and flesh begotten children, right? You have lusted with the blood of the people, like them, producing blood and flesh, which die and perish. On that account, I've given you over to what you want, right? So the reason I say this, we know that they, some of them got bound because of what they did. Well, how do you bind a ruach? Now we can speculate that another ruach can bind a ruach. It's something that beyond our comprehension. But what if he's given them over to what they want and they're becoming flesh, and that they die?
That could possibly be true, and that to an angel that would be a punishment.
And imagine, so the lake of fire was we speak about that being the eternal punishment, the way to kill off a ruach. What if you have to experience that in the flesh?
Man, I don't want to think about that.
Okay, my bad. Toda.
I like your point, but I hate your imagery, Ak. I don't want to think about experiencing the lake of fire in the flesh. That's why I can go so hard in that.
My bad.
That's scary. That's a scary thought. I tell people that a lot of times, like, you think when we going through scary, think about the lake of fire, if you believe.
Well, yeah, but at the end, that's what happens. After the 1,000-year reign, it's, death and Sheol go in there, the adversary and everyone who followed them.
No,
it's
it.
So.
And it's Jude, I think it's verse 6, he says that, "And the angels which kept not their further state, their ruach will state, but left their own habitation, he have reserved in everlasting chains under darkness unto the judgment of the great day." And remember last week when we read the Enoch, it talked about, you defined the word of dudal, where he said, I locked them in the middle of the desert or whatever. And I think you said dudal, when you looked it up, meant cauldron of Yah.
Right, so, dudal, yep, cauldron of Yah. Yeah. Cauldron of Elohim.
There's levels to this, man. It's all, that's why it's good we doing this, because a lot of this is beyond me, man. No, I don't want y'all to get it twisted, but those were great observations, man. And what if, like, that could be a punishment? I never thought about that like that, but you are right. To an angel, being made immortal is a punishment. I can't get back into Shemayim, and now I'm becoming like me, and I'm gonna die. Man, that's traumatic. A prime example of that is if you're into the first and second books of Adam and Eve, and somewhere down the line, maybe we'll read them as well in here. When Adam and Eve were first kicked out of the garden and they had to leave, it was traumatic. They couldn't handle it. They could not handle not being in the garden no more and not being immortal. When they start having to eat and getting hungry, that was traumatic. The first day when the sun went down, the nighttime was traumatic. And when they saw their first sunrise was ultimately traumatic. They was like, they thought Yah was coming to kill them. So just using that as an example, the angels would be really even worse, because Adam and Eve would know the garden. The angels would actually know the Shemayim and understand with the throne room. That was a great observation you made too. I didn't think of that. A holy place within a holy place. That was the Holy of Holies. That was like our temple as well. You are right. They would know even more than Adam and Eve about the heavenly places. So yeah, I definitely agree. All of that would be traumatic. Toda Aki for your points. It's all you, Yahakana. We can't hear you. There you go.
Okay. I had and just bear with me that this is just a thought and just based on what I'm reading here. But when you got to the point of where he's describing this bigger mansion made with the tongues of flaming fire, and then Kiva brought out the point that that could be, you know, that, or I'm not sure if it was Kiva or if it was you that brought out the point that we are the living temples, and those flaming tongues, the whole mansion is made with the flaming tongues. It made me think about when Yehoshua said he goes back to prepare a place for us. And those flaming tongues, there's a portion in Psalms 24, actually, Psalms 24:7, that says, lift up your heads, O ye gates, ye everlasting doors, and the kingdom of glory shall come in. So perhaps that is the place that he was preparing, and the gates that open up into that house are actually us. And the flaming tongues that have to be refined through fire would be us. But that was just my thought. And that's where my head went when I was reading that, or while you were reading that. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. And you know, you just made me think about something. It says it was built with tongues of fire. We know that, like I said, in the Acts, the tongues, the cloven tongues of fire was the Ruach coming in. And what I see, what you just kind of made me see there is, and behold, there was an opening before me, a second house, which is greater than the former, and everything was built with tongues of fire. It was built with the Ruach. Wow. It's just a thought, and, you know, just trying to get the imagery. In this Psalms right here, I like.
How bright is that light?
And you know what's funny? Him on the throne was even brighter. I see why Enoch was scared. Like, yo, where am I at? But now that's something to think about. That's a good observation. Like, I'm willing to, even though that's scary too, but not like thinking about with the lake of fire. Like, don't ever say that in here again. No, I don't ever want to think about that. But in this Psalms 24, as you see, it's talking about who shall ascend the hill of Yah, who shall stand in the holy place. When you read this this is Yahushua when he went to hell, right? So when you read the stories of him going to hell, he was saying, lift up your heads, O you gates, and let the everlasting king in. And the devil in him was like, well, who is the king of glory? And he told him, I'm strong and mighty, and he broke the doors. But when you read, when he leaves there and ascends to the heavens, he says this again, lift up your heads, O you gates, even lift them up, you everlasting doors. Who is the king of glory? Yahuwah of hosts, he is the king of glory. So as you see, he wasn't as authoritative his second time, because the second time he was going into the Shemaim. But this is a good, I didn't think of this chapter, but this is a good observation in this chapter, because when you read this hand in hand with some of the accounts of what it was like when he went to hell, this matches up with the way that he was interacting with the coming and going, the gates, and really the people who were in control of the gates, getting into those spots, not to veer off too far. It's on you, Akoti Mir. Good points, Yah and hallelujah. It's on you, Akoti Mir.
I have a question, and it's just an opinionated question, because I don't know if anyone really have the answer. But when I was looking at verse 9, and it's talking about the evil spirits, do you think, and this question is for anyone on the call, do you think that is, like, there's a set number of evil spirits, meaning they had, let's say, 1,000 kids, and that is all the evil spirits that we'll have? And I know some are going to be bound eventually, but do you think that there is a set number of evil spirits? Is my first question. And then my second question is, do you think these spirits have to inhabit a body to survive? Because we see Yeshua, he was casting out spirits and they were in people. And then at one point, the spirits requested that they be put into the pigs. Like, they wanted to go from one body to another, or one entity to another. And then it talked about another part in scripture where it says, if you cast out a spirit and, you know, he'll come back if the house however the scripture go, he'll come back and he'll bring 7 other demons with him. So you see that in one body, you can have several evil spirits. When Legion was talking, it says, my name is Legion because we are many. So that's my question. Do you think there are a set number of evil spirits? And do you think they need a body to inhabit? Or do you think there are some that need bodies and some that are just floating around?
So to your point about the set number of evil spirits, I don't know if there is a number. I don't know the set number, but I do know, and I brought this up on the screen. This is the book of Jubilees, and this is right after the flood when the demons are starting. Mind you, remember, pre-flood, they haven't dealt with demons. The wickedness in the world is the fallen angels at the time, right? They haven't dealt with demons because all of the giants, maybe they dealt with some because some of the giants were killing each other, but they haven't, for the most part, the wickedness they are dealing with is Hasatan and the fallen angels directly. After the flood, when all of the giants died, now you have the demons. So in the book of Jubilees, chapter 10, and this is chapter 10, I got to get a better version of this book of Jubilees. I don't like how this breaks down. But the evil spirits are starting to attack the men, the children of Noah, really, because Noah's everybody's grandfather, basically, in the world today. And they go to Noah and tell him these evil spirits, these entities are on us and they causing people to err. Pray for us. And he prays to Yah about it. And he asks Yah to come destroy the evil spirits. And it says, right here in verse 8, it says, and the chief of the spirits, Mastema, Beelzebub, this is more than likely the devil. And you know what, Akhtai, you wasn't here last week, but when they decided to do this, we surmised from the way Enoch wrote it that Hasatan wasn't amongst the bunch that took children. It said that it was angels over tens and over hundreds. The fallen angels were some of the more powerful angels that fell, but we got from it that Hasatan was not one, right? But that's a subjective conversation. That's something that we had came up with. I want to say collectively, they may mess around and say I said that. I thought we came up with that. You know how this group get, man. That was something we kind of agreed on, though. But anyway, this Mastema, I believe, to be Hasatan, post-flood, right? Because we know that he wasn't locked away either. The ones who took the wives, Abiyah's locking away. Hasatan hasn't been locked away. We know he'll be locked away when Yahushua gets back for 1,000 years. That's just we might could prove that, but I'm just throwing that out there. But anyway, he says, Yahuwah creator, let some of them remain before me and let them hearken to my voice and do all that I shall say unto them. For if some of them are not left to me, I shall not be able to execute the power of my will on the sons of men. The power you've given me. Okay, you want to be wicked? Go down there and do your thing. In the end, you're in trouble. You know what I mean? And it says, just to your point about a number, and he said, let the 10th part of them remain before him and let 9 parts descend into the place of condemnation. So it doesn't give us, and like I say, this is Jubilees chapter 10, if you wanted to read it. It's a nice chapter in general. I like this chapter. But to your point about a number, we don't have an exact number, but we know that the spirits in the world today are a 10th. If we believe that to be true, let me say that, because all of this is subjective. That's what we're doing this for. But if we believe that to be true, then Abiyah locked 9/10 of the spirits of all of the giants who died in the place of condemnation, which is more than likely Sheol, right? And he left a 10th on the planet. And I bounce this question back to you, Mira, if we believe in that to be true. Look at how wicked the world is today. Can you imagine if it was every demon on the planet? It's only a 10th of them. They got the world where it's at today. Imagine. So say that 10th is 100,000. Can you imagine if it was 1 million demons running around on the planet as wicked as this world already is with just a 10th of them, if we believe that scripture?
So you're saying you don't believe that these numbers can increase. They are what they are. And the reason I'm asking that is something popped into my head. So I believe there is a number. We don't know what the number is.
Right.
But I believe there is a set number. So let's say it's 10,000. Mm-hmm. That is what it is. And their job is to torment the sons of men for generations through generations. But I think what they're trying to do is because they can't increase in number, they're trying to increase in number, which is where this AI technology is coming from. And they just came up with this new thing where AI can now replicate itself and all this foolishness. So I was just thinking about that. Like there is a set number because the Watchers, if I'm understanding the story correctly, the Watchers were locked up, so they couldn't make any more kids. And then is it the Nephilim, the giants, that their children became the spirits?
It does say.
Or is it like, where is, like, so the Watchers have babies. What are their babies called? Are their kids called the Nephilims or the giants? And then the giants, once they died, their spirit just kind of roam?
Yes, I believe that's the spirits of the giants. Yeah, and I agree with you on the set number. The question I was asking is, if we believe Jubilees, then say it's in total it was 10,000. Then a tenth would only be there are 1,000 demons loose on the planet. And I was just kind of asking you, like, looking at how wicked the world is, can you imagine if all 10,000 were here? And you also just made me think of something. I agree. They are trying to increase. CERN may play a role in that. And I really be hating to give my opinion, but I'll give an opinion here. This is my opinion. I do believe that there have been men who have been so wicked that Yah has allowed to become some of these demons. And I base that off of because in the Testament of Solomon, where Solomon talks to the demons, one of those demons he talks to said that I was once a man. And I believe it was Nimrod. When he describes himself, he comes off as if he's Nimrod. And so to your point about them trying to increase, I agree with that. I think they have many ways where they try to increase. Like I say, CERN could be trying to open up a portal into Sheol to help them increase. But I also do believe that and when I say wicked, I don't know if Bill Gates wicked enough. Like when we talking about like there has never been a man post-flood as wicked as Nimrod. Per scripture, I haven't seen him. Now there have been wicked men, but like we talking about, and he may be, wickedness in high places behind closed doors. He may have his hand into everything wicked on the planet. So maybe, right? But I do believe that there are some men who may have ascended to be so wicked that they possibly could be forced to roam as evil spirits as well. Possibly. But great comments. It's on you, Pakad, y'all.
Man, y'all said so daggone much. Can you go back to that Jubilees real quick?
I didn't took it down. Give me one
real
second.
Quick. That's it, man. You was thinking just where, we already knew where we was going to go.
We already knew we was going to go.
We was going to go.
Hey, see why I need you here, Ak. You keep us sharp, man.
Right.
Oh, that's right.
So scroll down. You see that verse 12? Because you were saying that you was thinking that Mastema is Hasatan.
Yes.
You see that he says, and we did according to all his words, and all the malignant evil ones we bound in a place of condemnation, and a tenth part of them we left that they might be subject before Hasatan on the earth. So you were saying that you think Mastema is Hasatan?
Yes.
Okay. Because, well, I guess it is saying in verse 8, he says, I can't do my bidding.
Right.
So, Creator, let some of them remain before me, and let them hearken to my voice and do all that I shall say unto them.
Right.
For some of them, I didn't ever thought about it like that. I just learned something.
Maybe. Like I say, when we read this last week, you weren't here. It was Semyaza who made the league. It was 200 fallen angels that if you into that, right? Because as we go through this, we've always said we aren't trying to prove anything right or wrong. We're just trying to decipher what we're reading in Enoch. Let me say that.
Right.
So with that being said, it was Semyaza, it said in Enoch, with 200 other fallen angels, and they made a pact to do this. And he said, I fear that y'all not going to do it, and y'all going to judge me alone. And they made this pact. With that being said, with this pact, right? Based off what we were reading, I don't remember the exact conversation we had about it. I have to go back and listen to it whenever I throw these on YouTube. But we surmised that we didn't believe Sim Yaza or Azazel and the rest of the angels that started to teach the wickedness was Hasatan. Now, we do believe that was Hasatan in the garden, though. You feel me? But
right.
we felt like he was showing us the different power structures of the angels. So that's why I come to that understanding about Mastema, because we know that Hasatan has not, at least I believe that Hasatan has not been bound. And that's why when Yahushua comes back in the end, in the 1,000 years of peace, it says he'll be bound and then he'll be let back out, and Gog and Magog and so on and so forth. So, just kind of trying to give you a refresh of how we've gotten to that thought process.
Okay. Yeah, that's not bad. Me personally, I believe the House of Time was already on the earth before this, because this is a next situation. This is my personal thoughts. I think House of Time was already on the earth.
Oh, agreed.
And this happened, and they failed because of, man, I got so many comments, man. I got 2 people I got to call, man. So I'm trying to put all this stuff together. Mira is not helping me with her goddamn bricks, man. But so first thing, all right. So first thing, I think it's cool. I think it's sad, but you know what I'm saying? Like, what our whole desire and our purpose is trying to, all in all, we're trying to, Abiyah created all these things so that we can have rest in the end, so we can have rest and shalom. And the ultimate goal or the ultimate objective for us is to obtain rest, shalom. And the ultimate punishment for them is that they can't have shalom.
True.
They cannot have rest. They're just like Cain. They're just like Hasatan, going to and fro throughout the land. So even in the spirits, they can't rest. But the thing is, they still have to serve a function. You see what I'm saying? Do they necessarily have to inhabit bodies? I think they're still bound. They're still under a order. You know what I'm saying? They're like, I think they can't. I think that they cannot be function. I think they cannot be functionless. I think they're like animals. Like you have, think about it. Like you have people like you have tigers that's in the wild, and you have tamed tigers that will wrestle with you and play with you. But why? Because they grew up in your house.
Right.
What Abba Yah says, I knew you. There was no other God. There was no other entity. You knew me since your youth.
Mm.
So even though a tiger is a tiger, it is a tiger that is a domesticated, I watched this dude raise a puma, right? Not just a big, like, I forgot what her dad, I think her name is Luma or something like that. Big cat, trains the sucker like a dog. And, but she lays in his bed, plays around with him, don't be eating everything. But she was raised in that manner. But is she still a puma? Is she still what she is? Yes, she is. Do she still act like a puma? Yes, she still acts like a puma.
Mm.
You see what I'm saying? So she's still a puma. But the thing is that now where is she gonna be? How's she gonna be? You see? Is she gonna be inside? She's still gonna her function don't change. She's just inside. And she's gonna be a puma inside, a righteous puma, let's just say. a tamed, raised puma, but outside, you see what I'm saying? It's going to be a wild puma. Why? Because they said that don't know Yah. They don't know this thing. Only thing they know is to be wild. So, but it still functions as a puma. So let's say these things with these evil ruachs. Now, their fathers were created to function a specific kind of way. They were created to function just like every other entity on earth, except for us. Now, they had free will. Clearly, they had some sort of free will, but they still have a function that they have to perform. Like they cannot be functionless. So even though their spirits are free, their spirits still have to function and do something. You see what I'm saying? It's like they're completely meaningless, but they're not allowed to be meaningless. You see? So when I was thinking about that, when thinking about those demons going to and fro, it's like they're fulfilling their function. And I think we read in the Testament of Solomon that each demon had a Lord demon that was over. I think it was like Belteshazzar or something like that too. Talking about something, he had to go through the Lord demon to go to the lesser demon, whatever, get him out the water and some stuff. You know what I'm saying? So that's the first statement of mine that came to mind. And then the next thing that you all was saying is that these angels per se, right, that came down, they became bound, so they became judged. So why? Because the Father allows it to happen, because that's evidence. That's evidence. When they did what they did, you're guilty, and then you cannot say that you didn't do this thing because you're evidence. Your offspring is running around, and then if you really want to show how bad it is, how the people who do something, they're like, oh, it's not that bad. Nah, we won't let your offspring just produce mayhem. Just go ahead, produce mayhem, and we're gonna sweep them up. You got the records, collect the samples, get your whole CSI on, and then they're gonna die, and you're bound, and the evidence is right there when it's time for the final judgment. It's just that he's just holding them in jail until it's like death sentence. But you're gonna wait for like thousands of years before you actually are put to death. You see, that's the other thing that came to mind. It was something else that you said about the fallen angels. You're probably not gonna recollect it or say it back the same way, but you were saying something like the angels. You said that something along the lines of the angels did not need to be fruitful and multiply because they wasn't on earth. But I wanted to.
No, what the text was saying, Yah told them the angels didn't have no business wanting children, because basically man needs children because he dies. He's passing himself really on with his kids. The angels are immortal, so they don't need wives and children because they don't have to pass anything on. They're always going to be here.
So there we go. I don't think it has to do with them being immortal or the fact that men have to pass on their lineage. What if Adam never fell? Remember, that's your famous statement right there. He wasn't created to necessarily die per se.
Right.
But Abiyah, in creation, in all things, he created man to be fruitful and multiply.
This is true.
And fill the earth. So the thing is that in that sense, in the creation of all, and it's not just man. So even if you do say that, but he knew he was going to fail, that's irrelevant. He created everything on the earth to be fruitful and multiply. So it has nothing to do with just man. Everything on earth was going to be fruitful and multiply. from bacteria to viruses. Y'all don't want to get me started. So I think the angels, I think it just wasn't in their function. The moon and the stars don't need to be fruitful and multiply. You feel me?
True.
You see? So like the angels never needed, it wasn't in their function. They never needed to be fruitful and multiply because it was just wasn't according to their function. It just, that was just an earth, that was just an earth thing.
I can see that.
You see? It's just a thought. It's just this guy right here. Desire! But yeah, I don't want to take too long, man. It was just things that y'all, man, just, you know how it is when we get together, man. That's all. Shalom.
Yeah. No, that's what's going on in here. That's what this is for. It is getting late, though. We're trying to get to the end. But hallelujah. I once thought to myself, if Adam didn't fall and they were already commanded to be fruitful and multiply, and Lauren is right, he was commanded that because Yah knew he was going to fall. But say he shocked Yah and he didn't. I've always thought to myself, what would being fruitful and multiply look like for Adam and Eve had he not failed? Would they still procreate in the same carnal way? It's just something I've thought, but it's on you, Kiefer, and then I think it was Lauren at the end.
Hallelujah. So yeah, I'm gonna try to make this really as quickly as I can make it. Let's not forget that the evil spirits are not punishment for what the fallen angels did. It's the result of what they did.
Right.
The punishment was for them to watch their offspring die. That's number one. This is a result. To speak to Akbakar Yahu's point, it would make sense that these evil Ruachot or Ruachim, however you want to say it, it would make sense that they would have a function and they would operate underneath a function that already existed in the earth, that was already established in the earth. That's why we get the wording of rulers of 50, rulers of, this evil rock was rulers over these and this and that. That function is already in the earth. If that makes sense. There was something else I wanted to say about the evil rocks.
The evil ruachs, that's what.
So that's that.
Okay.
Hold on real quick. Don't leave. Akbakar Yahu and I talked about this before, and I brought up to him one time that I felt like I was trying to figure it out, and I felt like that Satan was sort of like a conglomeration, but I couldn't figure it out. But now I think we're seeing a little bit of a picture. Give me like 2 minutes, Aki. The serpent in the garden, he does what he does in the garden, and we hear nothing else about him until after it. The next thing that, way down, way in the script. The next thing we start seeing are these fallen Malachim. Then we see evil Ruachs. These are 3 different levels. So when you look at Jubilees, is what I'm thinking. These are 3 different levels. When you looked at Jubilees and you and Kayahu was talking about Mastema, I agree with you. For lack of a better way to put it, I believe that Mastema is the head over the evil Ruachs, and I believe he's Satan from the wording in Jubilees. What that would mean is that what we see in Genesis and what we see, like I think you were bringing it out a little bit, Akdre, what we see in the garden and what we see in Genesis 6 is something different.
Yes, I can see that. I can. I don't believe Satan was the serpent either. I believe that Satan was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. I believe the serpent was a fallen angel he had with him that went to get Eve as well. But I don't believe that serpent may be, but I don't believe him. Hasatan wasn't part of those angels that made the league to sleep with the women, though.
Right. I think this was a good revelation for all of us. And I think that when we start seeing the adversary in whatever form we see him, Satan, Lucifer, the dragon, when we see these things in the script, we need to start deeply diving into the wording that we're seeing associated around what we're reading at that point. And I think, I think we'd figure some stuff out, but that's all I wanted to say.
Oh, true. Even like how I brought the Lucifer point up, and I says Halil, man, it's different. It's levels to all entities. It's levels to angels. Even when, like in the end, when y'all said in Revelations, I'm gonna open up the spot in the desert, and Abaddon is going to come out, right? Abaddon's going to come out. He'll be the king over these entities that's going to come out in this smoke. That ain't the devil, but he was powerful enough to be locked away. Now he may be one of the ones who were sleeping with the women. He may really be Azazel. Like, it is levels to all of that. I agree with you, Aki. And we do, and that's why we do this. It's just like when you read Leviticus, sometimes you fly through it, sometimes you don't, but it all makes sense when we, when you slow down and you read it, you start to see in the detail that there's a picture also being painted. So I agree with that too. It is a good revelation for all of us as we read our scripture, just to slow down and really be particular with names and things that you may look over, because it may be trying to tell you something even in that. It's on you, Akoti Lauren, and then I'm gonna pray us out. It's getting late.
No, I'll be real quick because it was good. It was fire. It was fire. No, but in Enoch, when it speaks of the evil spirits, later on he tells you concerning the evil spirits that they were, the children of the fallen. But someone had said earlier about the evil spirits, and she was speaking of the end game far as concerning people, embodiment of people, or being one with the demon, or where you see what people call it possessed almost. Having that type of feel on it, they are looking to be with someone. That's why what they mentioned that verse as well, of them when he's kicked out of one place, he goes to another place seeking it. Acceptance, seeking someone who is definitely an unbeliever, definitely not into the Father, set apart, but for wickedness. And it's sad to say, that's what they prowl on. And when we get to that part in Enoch, he speak of the prowling on men. But that it just basically reminds you of the fowls of the air when they speak of the demons or preying on them as they do their walk, and when they stumble, they come and they entice them to be further into wickedness so they would not come back. And I also thought about the evil spirit as far as bringing diseases. When, Yah told them that they would die, if they would know about the good and evil. And when they ate the apple, they did not die right then and there. We mentioned that as well. And what's interesting, when we take it back to Genesis and we think about that the evil spirits, they bring plagues. And a lot of Hamashiach blessings that he gave to people as far as healing them was getting the spirits off them, and which was the plagues. Like in Luke chapter 7, verse 21, he said, in the same hour, he cured many of the infirmities and the plagues and of evil spirits. And unto many that were blind, he gave sight to. And that verse alone, when someone is blind, spiritually and physically, it works on both realms. And whenever someone sees the physical, you see a mimic of your spiritual. It's twofold. And a lot of people, when they have infirmities and they're going through these things, it's an embodiment of the wickedness they have in their vessel. It's an embodiment. That's why the Father wanted our vessels to be clean, so we could obtain the Ruach, the set apart Ruach. And when our vessels are dirty, as we saw with the swine, it upholds a spirit that is wicked. And it's an embodiment of it. That's why those rules was in play. And every law he gave us actually protects us from the evil spirits. So the people who are walking in the laws, they don't really have any play. But that's all I want to say. Hallelujah.
And you know what? As we close on that, you just made me think about something. Hallelujah. I agree, Yahakana. That's why they attacking me. But it says that at the end of this, it says, they eat no food, nor become thirsty, nor find obstacles. And these spirits shall rise up against the children of people and against the women, because they have proceeded forth from them. And basically they mad at them. You know, Yah give y'all a chance, but he don't give us a chance. And they probably think they better, because also in the Testament of Solomon, you would have certain demons would tell Solomon, like, I was born a heavenly beings, you just a man. Like, that's how they would talk to him. So they think they better than me too. Lauren, to your point about Yahushua and demons taking bodies, as we see here, being forced to roam the earth as an evil spirit is a punishment. You find no rest, basically. So to a demon, I have to take over a person's body to get rest, right? That's when I get rest. When I take over a person's body, that's when I can rest, or at least that's when I feel that I'll be able to rest. And closing out, 2 Corinthians 6:16, where it says, and it just made this make sense. Just going through this just brought this to my mind. This is why Yah said, verse 14, be not unequally yoked together with unbelievers, for what fellowship have righteousness with unrighteousness, and what communion have light with darkness, and what concord with Mashiach have Mashiach with Belial, or what part, which Belial I see as Hasatan again, Mastema, or whatever we call it, the worthlessness, as an epithet of Satan, right? And in the Hebrew, it means something without profit, an epithet of Satan. So what concord have Mashiach with Beelzebub or Hasatan, Mastema, the head of these demons? None. Or what part hath he that believe with an infidel? None. Verse 16, and what agreement hath the temple of Elohim with idols? We are the temple of Elohim. Demons aren't supposed to be in us. For you are the temple of the living Elohim. As Elohim have said, I will dwell in them and walk in them, and I will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. And that explains why when a demon comes into a person's body, it makes them sick. If we were to keep reading that, I'm not going to go back to it, but in that Jubilees, if you read further in 10, right after they tell Noah that Yah said a tenth of these demons going to say, it said that they taught him medicines and cures for all of the things that they would bring into the world, sicknesses, blindness, or whatever it was, right? Because that comes from the temple of Yah. Men aren't created to be taken over or housed by a demon. And the sickness is because they are the spirits of spiritual and flesh having babies. We are to be the likeness and the image of Yah, and it doesn't mix. I know Mira is big on the mixing of seeds, and that goes to show you how you don't have to have sex to mix a seed, because even when a demon it takes over a person's body, that's like the mixing of a seed, and they don't agree. And that's why it makes you leprous, or that's why it may make you blind, or like you said, because Yahushua, when Yahushua is running these demons out, a lot of times it's all likened to a sickness. This person had this person had that, and then it'll be like it was likened to a demon. This person couldn't do XYZ, right? This person couldn't, it was all kind of like a sickness, because the demons are in the temple of Yah taking over bodies, but the temple of Yah isn't set up. Yah set them up to where they'll never agree. That's the enmity between the serpent and man. I know that's another big thought, but we're going to leave on that note because it's getting late. Hallelujah. This was another good read. Hallelujah. Toda Lauren. Hallelujah. Toda you, Mira. Toda Yahakana. Ty, if he didn't leave. Everybody, man. Toda DJ for being here. Definitely you, Akifa. This is I'm gonna say, man, I really didn't know what to read. This ain't even really a lesson. We just read, but it's turning into that though. Hallelujah. And like I was gonna say, I didn't really know what to expect when we said we were gonna do this, but just so far, I think it's been some good revelations made. And I also think it's made like people like Mira, I know, who, because of your background, you look at the extra books a certain way. I think by us doing it in this way and being able to tie it to scripture and make it make sense, I think for other people like you, and even when it goes on YouTube, anybody who may see it, this may help to see that, you know, there are extra biblical books and there are extra books, right? And, you know, this is an extra biblical book attributed to somebody in the Bible. And then you have these jackleg preachers and prophets of yesteryear making these books, stealing points from these other books that's supposedly not in the Bible, and then acting like y'all done gave them some prophecy and it's all over the place. I think this is helpful for that as well. So hallelujah, as we build in this truth. Just closing out, I say Toda Rabbah Abiyah for allowing us to fellowship together in truth and righteousness as we try to build upon your word, Abiyah, and to better understand the detail. I ask that your Ruach is up on our conversation and on all our minds going forward, Abiyah, that all things that we go through in this reading and in any reading as we search you, that you give us understanding and it reveals all things, and that it brings all things into remembrance for us, Abiyah, as you have commanded. In the name of Yahushua, you would send the Ruach to us, Father Yah. We give you all honor, glory, and praise always, Abiyah. We ask that you protect us tonight as we sleep from all powers and principalities, whether woke or asleep, that you put the hedge around us, our families, and our household, Father Yah, so that nothing can attack us. Show us, if we don't have it, Abiyah, show us how to walk in that authority that was given to Enoch. As Yahushua said, I gave you the power to tread up on the serpents, Abiyah. So wherever we lack, Abiyah, we just ask that you build us up. We know that you chastise who you love, Abiyah. If you have to humble us for us to see, Abiyah, we will always respect your judgments, because we know that all your judgments are righteous and your word will never go out void. And we know that like a father who chastises his son, you do it because you love us, Father. Help us to see better, Father Yah. Help us to be better. Let your Ruach be upon us even in our sleep as we dream, Abiyah, and help us to send us Kodesh dreams to help us even in sleep to understand you better, Abiyah. We ask that you sit your throne in the temple of Yah, which is our bodies, and we ask that you sit your throne on our hearts, which is the holy of man, and be the authority in our lives. Guide all our decisions and write your commandments on our hearts so that sin will be dead to us, and it'll just be like second nature to do what's right according to your will and your word and the things that you've shown us. In the name of Yahushua HaMashiach, we pray. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. And you know, it is funny. One last point before we go. I was reading the book of Nicodemus, the Gospel of Nicodemus, the other day. And after Yahushua, I'm reading it because in our next lesson on when we do my family call, we're in John where Nicodemus comes to talk to him. And I was just trying to get a better understanding of Nicodemus. And at the end of it, after everything happened, Yahushua walked in the streets and they see dead men, and the dead men tell them what happened in hell. And all these people, like, we done seen dead men walking and talking, and we seen Yahushua up at the synagogue and he was with his disciples talking to them. And after all of that, it says that Pilate went to the temple and they shut the doors and he asked them, was that really the Son of Man? And they told Pilate, basically the Pharisees was like, well, you know, yeah, we kind of didn't see it when he was alive, but now that everything that took place and all these miracles after his death, we done went back through the scriptures and we believe that he possibly was him, right? And the point I'm making is when they told Pilate that, it said that they brought out a book, and they said in the book had 70 books, right? It had 70 books in which they went through them all with Pilate and showed him, which they were, and that further goes to show you how our Pharisees and our priesthood, our Levitical order was out of order, because a heathen had no business being in the temple going through that book with them. They was out of order even in his death still for that. But with that being said, it said that they brought out a book that had 70 books, and they went through it with Pilate and showed him where, based off the timelines biblically that they had when they were still under the right timing and all that, not like us today, where they believed it was him. The point I'm trying to make it with us going through this Enoch is we have 44 books, I believe it is today, in what we call the Old Testament, 22 of the New, to make 66 books. What we call the New Testament at the time when Pilate would have went in there, if that's true, would not have been written, because Yahushua had just lived and you wouldn't have had Shaul and all them letters and all that yet. The point I'm trying to make is outside of the New Testament, what could possibly be me missing? If that story is true, they already had 70 books. We only have 44 books of an Old Testament. And as I was reading it the other night, I just had this thought, and I was thinking like, just, right offhand, not even really confirming it, but I'm like, what could be missing? And I thought, you got the book of Gad, the prophet in scripture they talk about. Nathan, David's son, who was the prophet, supposedly wrote a book. The prophet Edo supposedly wrote a book. And these are just books written in scripture. The book of Jasher, Jubilee, all 3 Enochs, like 70 books. We have 44 in our Old Testament. So even then they had 26 more books than us. And that's why we do this, to try to figure out what's been hidden from us. Hallelujah. And that's what I leave y'all on.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, hallelujah.
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 Hallelujah. Hallelujah, DJ, man. Hallelujah. It's good seeing all y'all. And like I say, Layla Tov, I ain't gonna hold y'all, man. I hear my daughter down there turning up. Y'all know what time it is for me.
Shalom, Marky.
Layla Tov, fam.
Good seeing everybody. We'll talk. I'll be talking to you through the week too, DJ, man. I've been reading up. I'm trying to get my thoughts together for you.
That's a bet. I got you.
Hallelujah.
Thank you. Hallelujah.
Everybody have a good night.
You too.
Shalom, shalom.
Easy.